America. Come on, I'm dying to know, because that was the last thing I saw on social media. You in America.
Yeah. So for Mr. Lee's as a brand, America is a really strategically important move for us. You know, as much as the UK's and Australia's, you know, and Europe are wonderful markets for us, I've always seen it as the dress rehearsal for the big show, which is America. And I think, you know, any brand, whatever you are, you know, you kind of personally feel you haven't made it till you've made it in America, and then to be recognized as a global brand. So that's always been part of my whole plan and vision for Mr. Lee's was, you know, America's the whale, and that's where we're going to be going when the time's right. And we've never taken our eye off that opportunity. And of course, you know, as we've spent the last probably 12 plus months gearing up for America and preparing, because we now make our product, we make our product in America and California as well for the North American market. We have our launch partner, our national launch partner in America was the absolute must, and for us, which is Whole Foods America. And
I'm going to just quickly stop you, because I bet people are going, what product? We're talking noodles, people.
Noodles of noodles.
But I'll ask that question later.
Actually, right behind me.
Noodles.
So we're talking noodles for now, but we've got lots of other products coming shortly as well. So that's also been going on behind the scenes during Corona. But it was a very challenging time because, of course, just when we'd had our national launch in America, and our production run about to start for the fulfillment of our national launch with Whole Foods, literally when we're about to start our first major production run in California, one day before that, lockdown happened in California, and we're like, oh my God, we were supposed to be flying out there to be present in the production facility, as we always do, and make sure everything goes smoothly. We had materials and last bits and bobs still being held up, and then everything stopped. And all that uncertainty around it. So it was like, oh my gosh, now what? You know, lockdown, you know, production run about to start. We're going to lose our national launch, but we managed to fight through it all and launched on time, produced on time. We had lots of things going on in between, the USDA sort of coming down and stopping our production, and lots of challenges, but we did it, you know. That's thankful to a great team, Mr. Lee's, you know, with lots of stress in the team. But we pulled it off, and we're now a national brand in America, and Whole Foods is just the beginning. You know, we have lots of other things going on for further launches this year and beyond, and we're excited. And new products launching as well beyond noodles.
I think back to pot noodles. I think back to, you might as well just eat the cardboard box. So I have to ask you, was it difficult to change people's perception of noodles in a pot? So I don't want to call them pot noodles.
Great question. And actually, before you do that, I'm going to take these out, because here I am thinking I'm talking to you through these, and I realize, hang on, they're not working. I'm talking to you through my screen.
Honestly, this man is a really good businessman.
But yeah, great question. And look, absolutely. When I created the brand and created the product, you know, look, instant noodles, a lot of people have had them, particularly, you know, they remember them from their uni days. And they were, and, you know, most of us have all had a pot noodle or equivalent at some point in their lives, and lots still eat them. And for me, I was no different. You know, I've been a time-poor entrepreneur all my life, busy and looking for those quick, convenient snacks. I ate lots of instant noodles growing up. You know, my dad originates from Singapore. My mum's Australian, but I was, you know, born and bred in Australia and grew up in Australia. But I ate lots of noodles and lots of instant noodles because I said they were convenient. I was time poor. They tasted okay. Didn't particularly care what was in them. And it wasn't until I actually had my own personal circumstances come up, and I'll actually draw back what happened prior to that. Prior to getting diagnosed the first time with late stage 4 cancer a number of years back, I actually had another startup company going at that time. And during that startup company, I did a business trip to China. And while I was in China, I was actually with a couple of business hosts that I was with. They actually had China's 5th largest instant noodle company. And they took me for a tour of their factory, and we were standing around mountains and mountains of boxes of, their pot noodles. And, one of the brothers asked me, he said, look, Damien, we know you live in the UK, and right now we produce 5 billion instant noodles a year just for the Chinese market, but we're really keen on exporting our noodles to UK and Europe. Could you help us? Could you be that guy? And I kind of said, well, I was flattered at the thought that they even offered me that. But I said, look, thank you for the offer. But firstly, I know nothing about retail. I know nothing about instant noodles outside of eating them. And by the way, I'm busy with my own startup right now, which I had, going at the time. And I said, thanks, but no thanks. And it was kind of at that awkward moment while I'm standing and letting them down, I kind of, bit of a silence, and I asked one of the brothers, I better make some small talk. And I said, but by the way, which is your favorite instant noodle? Which is your favorite flavor? And one of the brothers smiled at me and he said, we don't eat our own noodle. And I was like, did he just say that? And here I am standing in the factory with the owner of a food company, and he's telling me he doesn't eat his own product. And I said, but why not? And he said, if you knew what we put in them, you wouldn't too. And I'm like, what? And I was like, you're kidding me. I said, but what are you putting in them? Why? And he said, look, it's really simple. He said, 10 odd years ago here in China, there were hundreds of instant noodle manufacturers. He said, today there's less than, whatever the number was, now I can't quite remember, but he said, today there's less than 60 odd of us. And I said, again, but why? And he said, look, it's really simple. He said, everybody's competing so much on margin that we're all dumbing down our product so much so just to survive and just to compete, that we can't afford to put anything real in these. And I was like, wow, I've been eating a lot of these, like a lot of people over the years.
And I thought,
I've been eating cardboard all these years, and high in salt and MSG to enhance the flavors, and, just cardboard filler at the end of the day. And, nasty noodles made with palm oil, and they were just cheap and nasty products. So I kind of took that away with me when I left, and thought, wow, gosh, okay. And when I came back to the UK, a few months later, I was diagnosed with late stage 4 cancer. And that was another story. But, at the time I had to make these big choices in my life. And I said that one of that big choices was for me to change my lifestyle, change what I eat, take all the nasties out of my diet if I was to have any hope of getting through my diagnosis. And that's what I did. And, I took my favorite guilty pleasure out of that, instant noodles as well. And, went raw at the time and really cleaned up my diet. And, I got on with the battle ahead, which was beating my diagnosis at the time. Subsequently, I've been diagnosed with cancer 3 more times, but I got through it. I'm a survivor. And I had they gave me 2 weeks 5 years ago. And, I've beaten that one, and I've had another primary cancer since, and, there are other stories, and that's just what I do. But what I did lose at that time was my startup company, because when I had to start treatment, I had to stop everything. And, 12 months later, when I came out of that diagnosis, I lost my startup company. I was the driving force behind the startup. I'd secured a big external round of funding at the time for that business, literally a week before the diagnosis. So they pulled out, of course, at that time. And I had to get on with getting better. And I did. And when I came out the other side, I thought, well, what am I going to do now? Do I try and get that startup company, Design Gadgets, going again? Or do I do something new? Do I get a job? No way. And
no way.
Or do I try and get those Chinese brothers? I thought, that's an idea. Maybe I could be that entrepreneur and get their noodle going here in Europe. So I looked into the size and opportunity of the instant noodle market, and quickly realized it's a huge global market. Well over 100 billion instant noodles are sold and consumed around the world each year. But I quickly realized doing my research that they were all into that race to the bottom. They were all mostly these nasty, cheap noodles that, everyone was selling for £1 or $1 or less. There's no nutrition in them. There's no value. There's no real food ingredients in them. They were just all nasty. So that's when I thought, you know what? Here's the opportunity. Here's the opportunity to go completely the other way. Here's the opportunity to create a healthful, particularly now what I believed in eating, and you are what you eat, in my diet. I thought, here's the opportunity to make a healthful instant noodle that was still convenient, still made the same way, had hot water 3 minutes or less to, you know, you're ready to eat, but with real food, with real protein, with real natural ingredients and no nasties, gluten-free, lowest in sugars, lowest in salts, vegan options, and so on. And that's where I saw the opportunity for a Mr. Lee's product to make a product that I could eat, a product that I could trust, and so on. And at the time, people were like, well, yeah, how much are you going to charge for it? And I said, well, you know, my idea is to retail it for around £2.50 a cup here in the UK initially. And they said, crazy, no one's ever going to pay £2.50 for a pot noodle. And I said, no, I think people's attitudes are changing. People are different. If they know that they're buying something good, you know, 5 years ago, I used to walk into supermarkets and you would never see a guy in particular picking up a product off the retail shelf and turning it around and reading the ingredients list and nutrition. You know, I call them pack turners. And, you know, I do the same. I always pick up whatever it is and I read what's on the back. Guys didn't do that 5 years ago, but now we're all doing it. People are becoming much more aware of our health and what we're putting into our body. And I said, and instant noodles, people want to eat better. So I'm going to create one that people can trust, people can eat, celiacs can eat, and so on, with real food, with premium ingredients. And that's what we use, freeze-dried ingredients and real food. And I proved people wrong, that people will pay £2.50 for a healthy instant noodle that you will trust. You know, a pot noodle, great. Look, we're not trying to be a pot noodle. You know, they have their fans and people buy pot noodles for their reasons, and they typically sell for around £1. They don't try to disguise themselves as anything healthier, you know, at all. They know their market position and they're proud about it. But likewise at Mr. Lee's, we know our market position and we're proud of our price point, because we couldn't afford, or we couldn't give in our product what at a pot noodle price point. We're put it as said. So we don't disguise that. Yes, we're the most expensive instant noodle in the market today, but £2.50, come on, it's not, you know, it's cheaper than a sandwich at the end of the day for a hot, healthy noodle.
Well, I think it goes back, doesn't it, to that idea that, you know, we want to eat healthily, but we also sometimes don't have time to stand in the kitchen. And so you have instant meal, if you like, and the health together, and that is worth paying extra for.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I love that. I'm not a pot noodle person, I have to say. My hubby, who is, and will eat the cheapest, loves yours.
Great.
I was lucky enough to be at an event and I took some home. So, do you think then for you it was about, I want to ask this, is it because you love pot noodles and it sounded like a great thing to try, with a bit of your, actually I need to eat healthier because I'm very ill, and it was that challenge that kept you going?
Well, yeah, that's part of it. And look, I've been an entrepreneur all my life, a disruptor all my life, and I've created many businesses, and more than probably 95% of them I've never had any prior experience in before. You know, I created a maritime satellite communications company reseller, and that's now the second largest in the world. I sold out of that too early. I've had marketing companies. I've had security companies that have operated in Iraq and Afghanistan. I've had restaurants and bars. I've had lots of different businesses around the world. And I'm a restless soul. And I'm always looking for opportunities and things to do. And God, couldn't that be done better? And it was kind of, you know, I thought, couldn't instant noodles be done better? And yes, it was part of my own personal story, but I thought, wow, this is really ripe for disruption. This is really ripe for disruption. And that's what I wanted to go and achieve and show. This is a better for you product. And there's a real opportunity to help make time poor people, give them opportunities to eat better. There's lots of noodle lovers on the world. Asian Oriental food is totally on the rise around the world. And it was a real opportunity that I thought I'm going to go and grab and take. And we're not just a food company. I describe Mr. Lee's as a food tech company, because we also have the tech side of our business, which are our noodle kiosks that we've developed and rolling out now. which is bringing vending. I hate that word vending. It's a dirty old dinosaur word for me. So I call our technology noodle kiosks, but they can vend you a hot, healthy Mr. Lee's noodles 24/7 in hospitals, universities, defense force bases, corporations. And we're starting to roll those out now with our partners here in the UK and soon the US. And we have two versions. One is our retail version, kind of like a Costa coffee machine, where you take it in a WH Smith or a store, make it, you know, press the buttons, you have a big, beautiful touch screens, and take it to the till and pay for it. And our cashless 24/7 versions, which, you know, then you pay at the machine. Vend. It's a big 42-inch touch screen, so you have a big, colorful Mr. Lee's experience, a journey on that screen, and then pay and go. So we've got them now going into universities, NHS, corporations for their staff. And we're about to start with Moto Highway Services here in the UK next month. We put our first pilot machines in with Moto. So you'll be able to pull up at a Highway Services soon and be able to get yourself a Mr. Lee's. So we're really excited. We've got a pilot launch coming up in America with one of the world's biggest retailers. So lots going on. But so that was my other side of the business. I wanted the tech, not just the food, I wanted tech. And that's great for a potential valuation for our business in the future. It makes our business much more desirable for investors and future strategic partners that are coming into the business to scale up a big monster. And not just about noodles, we have other products coming behind. We're a food company, we're not a noodle company. We're known as Mr. Lee's Noodles, but the real name of our company is Mr. Lee's Pure Foods. So we've got room for lots of other expansion and scale of exciting new products that we're launching soon too.
But where do you find the energy? Because you've just come through another lot of treatment for the cancer and you've got all this going on. I mean, how do you balance those two? I can barely balance getting up in the morning and doing everything. How do you balance it?
Well, gosh, good question too. Look, you know, I often say to people, I'm too busy for cancer. And it is my mantra. Cancer is just something I have to do. It's like an appointment for me. I've got to show up and do and finish my appointment and just get back to family, business, and so on. So I'm too excited about what we're doing at Mr. Lee's. You know, we opened in Australia as well, so we have an office in Sydney as well for the Australasian market. We've opened now in America. During lockdown, we have the head office here in Bournemouth in the UK. So we've got lots going on, and you know, we are now truly a global business. And you know, we make and produce on 3 continents. We have 3 packing. We make in Australia, we make here in the UK for the UK, Europe, and we make in America now. So we've got a lot going on. So I really haven't got time for cancer. I really mean that. And you know, I'm a single full-time dad of 2 young boys on top of it. So I'm busy with them, and you know, and they're schooling, and gosh, they've been at home for the whole of lockdown too. So that's just been added more pressure with being a dad.
The whole audience now is going, I'm tired just hearing about it.
But you know, at the end of the day, I'm so excited. I love being an entrepreneur. I love waking up in the morning and thinking, what's going to happen today? But actually, even when I wake up in the morning, when I've gone to bed, I'm actually awake in bed thinking, what have we got to do? What are the challenges we need to conquer? What's this vision for our brand? How do we keep pushing forward? How do we still stay exciting? How do we stay ahead of our competitors? How do we get into this retailer? How do we expand into that region of the world? You know, when you're a busy person as an entrepreneur, you've got so much to think about. You've got to be able to pile it on. You know, I was just asked that question, funny enough, yesterday by someone. And a lot of it I take back to my times. Funny enough, I spent a bit of time in the military back home in Australia many years ago. I was with a really special bunch of people that in the unit I served with at the time. And they were highly motivated individuals, you know, and you had to even pass selection even to serve in the unit, and you know, 20% that tried only ever got through. So when you got through, you knew you were with a really highly bunch of motivated, hardworking people, and that ethos and that I've carried through in my professional life, all through my life, in the way I approach challenges, adversity, is I never see a brick wall as a dead end. I see that as a challenge of how do we get around it, over it, whatever, dig under it.
For me, the greatest joy of this summit has been what I've learned from entrepreneurs, and that theme comes out from all entrepreneurs. It's about, you have to look for the solution. To keep moving forward. If you get stuck in the problem, it's looking, and I think, it's about flexibility, isn't it? It's about being able to just
absolutely. And look, it's about, I was with some of my team yesterday for the first time face to face with some of them. I was like, God, this is what you look like. Look at your hair. Now I've had my hair cut recently, but look at your hair, and you look like, hippies. But I was with the team, and we've always had the mantra at Mr. Lee's, which I've always drilled into the guys from day one, were two things. We're going global, think global, not local, and also turn every negative into a positive. And don't just say it, do it. And we always sit down, whatever challenge we've come up with as a brand, is not to think of it as a brick wall. We'll sit down, we will laugh in the face of adversity, and we will sit together and work out, okay, how do we turn this into a positive? How do we get around it? And then we together work around any roadblock or any no, and turning no's into yeses. And we've always managed to do that. And we talked about it again yesterday. Gosh, we've always somehow managed to do that. So, it's not conforming. It's said, if you're a young entrepreneur with a young new brand, you've got to be fresh. You've got to think outside the box. You've got to do things differently. And you've got to have USPs, and you've got to identify, what are our USPs? What makes us different to the guy next door or the other brand? Why should we be on that shelf, or why do we do things different? So that's kind of what we and I instill in the team, and we live and breathe as a team and a brand. We never take no for an answer, and we love challenges and brick walls because it makes us more entrepreneurial in our thinking and makes us more disruptive of how we get through it.
I think it's amazing, and I know I'm looking forward to seeing what other gorgeous foods you bring out. And I'm assuming, will the new gorgeous foods be as not as instant as a pot noodle necessarily, but for the time poor person or me who hates the kitchen and doesn't like cooking?
Well, I give you a sort of a world's first on what we are going to be launching. The next product range we're launching, and it is for time poor people, and we're making it just as convenient, again, ambient in a pot, and it's a product called congee. Okay, and congee is an oriental rice porridge. Okay, so it's a savory, like here in the West we have our oat porridges and so forth, and they're usually sweet. In Asia, their equivalent is what they call congee, and it's a rice porridge. It's savory and delicious, okay? And it's actually, purely by population around the world, it's the most eaten breakfast food in the world.
Really?
Okay? So in Asia, every Asian family know their congee, and what a congee typically takes about 1.5 hours to 2 hours to make at home, okay? To make your home congee. What we've done at Mr. Lee's is we've brought that same experience of a congee that you would have at home, just as good, in 4 minutes in a pot. Add hot water, 4 minutes, and you've got that same congee experience.
Oh, you are delicious. Singing to my non-cooking heart.
Wow. So we're launching our congee range in Australia in Australia first in July, August. Then we're launching it in America with our partners at Whole Foods, and then Q4 here in UK, Europe. So we're really excited about that. Then we've got a snacking range coming shortly as well through our noodle kiosks, which will be freeze-dried snacking and lots of other things that we're in the planning.
Oh, it sounds great. Sounds great. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. I know fitting you into your incredibly it's been a joy, and I know people are going to learn from that. So thank you. Thank you,
Bev, and thank you so much for having me. Great to see you, and you're looking amazing. So thanks again.